Hello listeners and welcome back. When you hear that Chris Pratt and Samuel L. Jackson are going to be in a movie together, I can bet no one expected it to be the new Garfield movie. But that's what we got and that's what we're going to be discussing today. The new animated Garfield movie. But I guess when you think about it, it's not like either of these two actors is scarce when it comes to voice acting. Samuel L. Jackson is known for probably one of the most quoted and memorable lines in animation.
Honey!
What?
Where's my super suit?
What?
Where is my super suit?
And while Chris Pratt has certainly made a name for himself in voice acting with many examples such as Mario, the Lego movies, and now this, who is Garfield? For whatever reason on why you may not know who Garfield is the very well-known, beloved orange-striped cat whose whole attitude is involved around being lazy, eating lasagna, and hating Mondays. I was first introduced to Garfield when he appeared in the live-action adaptation voiced by Bill Murray that ran for 2 feature films. Then I also remember watching some animated shows and movies that had Garfield and Oni on adventures, which is set in similar animations that this movie has. About the movie. So a basic rundown of the movie would be about Garfield is reunited with his long-lost father, only to be ripped out of his perfect life and forced to take place in a heist to help his dad. The movie more or less starts with a flashback to the cutest baby Garfield you could ever see, and we watch as he finds and meets John for the first time. We then get a montage of Garfield growing up alongside John and Odie. This is also where we get most of the classic original Garfield references, like his utter disgust and hate for Mondays, his box bed and teddy bear, his die-hard love for lasagna, and even a romance reference for John with the vet, which if you watched the live-action films, it was an actual storyline that took place for John's character. Of course, now that Garfield is grown and life is good, things can't stay that way, and they don't. Garfield and Odie get kidnapped, and this is where we are introduced to Garfield's long-lost father, Vic. Now they are all being held captive by the villain cat Jinx, who wants revenge on Vic for leaving her behind on a heist when they used to run in the same crew. Their task is to break into a dairy farm to steal gallons of milk so Jexie can use it for her own desires. This leads the three on many crazy and wild adventures with obstacles, deadly encounters. They meet new friends, forcing Garfield and his father to bond, where we find out why he left Garfield in the first place.
Came to knock on your door and I'd see what a great life you had with John, so I just thought it was better if I kept my distance.
Moving on, we have other characters. Can't go this whole movie without talking about Odie, of course. Odie is this adorably sweet dog and loyal sidekick to Garfield. He is very smart and useful, and usually the key elements in all of Garfield's schemes, which is the exact role he plays in this movie, always by Garfield's side and even the comedic element at times. The most interesting thing about Odie is that he is the only character that doesn't speak, making him unique and stand out from all the other characters. It also makes his character very expressive in his body language and eyes to compensate for the fact that he does not have a voice. Though despite never being able to actually speak, Garfield can always understand him perfectly.
I'm going to do the math here in my brain. The way you do that is Odie.
1,675 quarts of milk. Exactly right, Odie.
Overall, Odie is by far one of the best characters in the Garfield franchise. There is just nothing bad to say about him. Otto. Otto the bull is a new friend the gang meets when trying to break into the dairy farm. He used to be a mascot for the dairy farm with his partner Ethel, until new owners took over, causing the two to be separated. He strikes up a deal with the others, where he'll help them break in if they agree to help break Ethel out. After a few mishaps, they devise a plan in which Otto and Ethel are reunited once again. When it comes to what others thought of the movie, They have all come to view it quite harshly in my opinion. It's described as being fine, but overall very basic, playing it safe, overdone action, and overall didn't fit the vibe of Garfield. Although I can agree in some cases, like it would have been nice to see more of them as a family, as this is when it felt the most cozy and familiar. Or at least more scenes with John, who was voiced by Nicholas Hoult, especially because his parts were the most funny and relatable to audiences, particularly adults, as they all understand the harsh reality of phone calls.
Your cat is orange. Please, press 2. This doesn't really accomplish anything, but gives you the false sense that we're engaged with you.
However, I still feel as some of the opinions on the overall movie were a bit harsh, as a lot were criticizing it for not being a chart-topping film, whilst I'm sitting here thinking, when has Garfield ever expected to be a movie that was going to topple charts? As a character, he has always been beloved, well-known, and popular, but none of the Garfield adaptations have ever been outstanding, so why was this one so harshly claimed? On all accounts, it was actually not that bad. This movie gave us a fresh new take on Garfield with new adventures that involved newcomers like his never-before-seen father. It brought in new references that linked it to the modern era, like uses of smartphone. They argue that in this movie they made Garfield too adventurous. I would argue that Garfield was always adventurous and had tricks up his sleeve, like his milk-catching contraption from the live-action films. That was his idea, and he just tricked the other cats into using it for his benefit. Or like when he helped lead the uprising to save the kingdom in movie 2. So I would argue that Garfield was very adventurous and always had something going on. And sure, it didn't have you laughing like at a comedy show or anything, but there were some funny moments and scenes to enjoy. So I do believe that the Garfield movie overall was a good watch. It was nothing outstanding, but it was never going to be. You have to keep in mind that the audience meant for this film is kids, so all of the jokes, story, and overall goofiness of the movie is aimed and made for kids. It does still hold some elements that adults can enjoy, like John's struggles throughout the film and the reunion of Garfield and his father. So if you go into this movie with the mindset that this is made for kids, you'll most likely have a fun, chill time, or at least I did. And I can most definitely see myself coming back to rewatch this Garfield movie before I rewatch the live-action Bill Murray ones. No offense to Bill, but something tells me that he feels the same way.
I was never a very good practical joker.
So do you have any regrets?
Garfield, maybe?
That is all for this episode. As always, everything we discussed will be linked below along with my socials. Please be sure to like, subscribe and follow. Feel free to leave all your thoughts and comments below. Thanks for listening.